friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to share with you my favorite recipe for a homemade remedy for pain and inflammation. Now, I did a video last year on natural remedies for pain and inflammation where I covered quite a few different herbs, essential oils, and more. And I'm going to go ahead and link back to that in the description box down below. In that video, I did talk about this recipe, but I had just added some new stuff to it then, and I hadn't had a chance to try it, and I have since. And even though I don't need to make any more right now, I wanted to go ahead and do this so I can give you a more specific recipe as well as give you an update on how well it's working for me. And it's working great. I don't need to take painkillers very much, but when I do, I find this one works best. And each person has to find, this is why I did that video last year, which herb or which way to take it is going to work best for each individual. Another example would be the one I did. I have a video specifically on the pain capsules. So here I have two different type of pain remedy capsules, and I do use these from time to time, but I find that the extract for me works the best. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this recipe. I will also write it out for you, but remember, you can go back to the other video where I list off many other herbs that you can use, and you can basically get a rough idea and make your own mixture accordingly. So when I first started making the pain extract, I think I started with just feverfew, then it was feverfew and catnip, then it was feverfew, catnip, marshmallow, and echinacea, then I got rid of the marshmallow because I don't think it was doing much to help with the pain, and the last ingredient I added in place of the marshmallow was the valerian leaf, and it works great. So when I do this with these herbs, I'm using equal parts, and again, you can adjust if you choose to go with the same herbs I'm using. You can adjust the amount according to which one you think is going to work best for you. You can leave any of these out. You can use any one of these. I like using them all in tandem with each other because I think they just work best and are easier to take, and I'll explain that in a bit. So what I have here is catnip. Now, one of the ways that catnip works, just so you understand, is it's more of a sedative, so it is very calming, and that's one of the ways it helps with pain. And so I'm using equal parts, and I want a total of 2 whole cups of the herbs in my jar here to start with. So I'm going to use, since I'm using equal parts, 1 part of each, I'm going to put a ½ cup of the catnip to start with. And for any of these herbs that I'm mentioning, you can use the flower, you can use the leaves alone, or you can add the flowers to it if you want. The leaves typically in this case are going to have more benefits, but you can add the flowers as well if you want to. Now this is the bitter one. This is the feverfew, and though it is very good, a lot of people find feverfew is especially good for those who have migraines. It is quite bitter, but this is one of the reasons I came up with this blend, is to help cut that bitterness by mixing it with other herbs. So a ½ cup of that, so 1 part. And then valerian leaves being my newest ingredient in this. I'm loving how the valerian root is very, very powerful. The leaves and the flowers, though, have a better flavor. They're a little more mild, so though some people are very sensitive to valerian, may do better using the flowers and the leaves. So I'm going to do a ½ cup. This is just kind of loose. I don't get super precise. Of the leaves there. I have dried up the flowers before, but now I save the flowers and let them turn to seeds so I can sell them on my store. Valerian is similar to catnip in the fact that it has sedative properties, but it's also a great muscle relaxer. So if your pain is caused from tension, from stress, it can work in both those ways, where it helps ease the stress and relieves the tension and the buildup in the muscles. And then the echinacea. And you can see here, I've got the flowers in there. I love adding the flower petals just because it makes it look prettier. So again here, a half cup of the echinacea leaves and flowers, or just the leaves alone if you want. You can also use the root. I always just use the leaves. Echinacea is one of my top favorite medicinal herbs that I grow because it has so many purposes. It also goes in my homemade cough, cold, and flu medication. And I think there's something else I'm forgetting about that I use it in. So then the next step is deciding what kind of solvent you want to use to make your extract. And you can also, by the way, get this even stronger by adding more herbs in there. I just wanted some kind of measurement to start with. So equal parts of each. I'll see how it goes once I add the liquid in. I might go ahead and add more, but usually I look at getting a jar of my herbs at least halfway full, sometimes 3/4 of the way full. But we'll see how this works. I think I'm going to have room after I add my solvent that I might go ahead and add maybe another 1/4 cup of each of the herbs. And so the solvent a lot of people will go to is vodka. And vodka is going to be a stronger solvent. It's going to extract better and faster more of the benefits and nutrients from the plant material. But for those of you who are trying to avoid alcohol, one of the more popular extract solvents to use would be 3 parts glycerin, food grade, non-GMO, to 1 part water. And I used to do that. I used to mix that with my whatever alcohol I was using. But I then eventually just decided that honey can make a great extract as well. It is also a natural preservative, and it has more benefits, especially if you're going with raw honey and you keep it raw. So instead of doing glycerin, I would do, if I was trying to make it completely alcohol-free, 3 parts raw honey to 1 part water. The reason the water, especially with the honey, but the glycerin too, is to help decrease the viscosity so it's more runny. You're going to get a better extract. I remember the first time I tried to use glycerin by itself to make an extract, and it was a vanilla extract. It just didn't extract enough of the vanilla, and it was because it was too thick. So that's why you need to water it down. But remember, the honey on its own is a natural preservative. Now in this case, what I like to do is I like to use my homemade wine, and obviously it's not going to be as strong as vodka, but it has a nicer flavor and is cheap, and I know it's organic because I made it out of my own grapes. And then I use 1 part honey. So the honey in this I found does work really well to help cover up that bitterness of the feverfew and makes it so much easier to take, and it's still effective. So 1 part honey, 3 parts wine is what I'm doing this. You could go 1 part to 1 part. There. I just added more wine because I realized I didn't have enough in there. So what I have in here is a half cup of honey to 1.5 cups of the homemade wine to equal 2 cups. That's what I'm starting with. Now, if I don't want to add more herbs, but I want more solvent, once I pour this in there, if it looks like I need more, I'll just add the wine. I didn't want to put too much in here to start with because I didn't want any extra of my solvent since I'm making a blend. That's the tricky part, is when you're doing something like this and you're doing a blend, it's kind of guesswork to figure out how much you're going to need to fill this up, because this is going to start soaking up the solvent. So let me go ahead and stir that in, since I just added some more of the wine to that to equal 2 cups. And so I'm simply going to pour that over, and just like I thought, I have plenty of room. Let me go ahead and just kind of stir that around, push that around in there, because you know, a quart jar, this is a quart jar by the way, a quart jar is 4 cups, and I knew that, but I still just didn't want to go overboard on that. So now I have an option. I can either just top this off with the homemade wine. I think I am going to go ahead and add a few more herbs to this. Again, this is going to be up to you. But maybe I think instead of a 1/4 cup of each, I'm going to probably just add an 1/8 cup of each herb. And then I'm going to top it off with the homemade wine because that's going to be easier. I'll still have that nicer flavor of the raw honey in there, but also get a good strong extract. Okay, so I just added another 1/8 cup of each of the herbs, and so I'm going to go ahead and just top this off with the homemade wine. And even though I don't drink, this right here is one of the #1 reasons why I make my own wine, is so I can have a way to make extracts for free that taste better and are organic. unlike having to depend on buying an expensive organic vodka. And around here, organic vodka is hard to find. And I'm just going to go ahead and shake that up really well and see what that looks like, and maybe pour just a little bit more wine in there and shake it up some more. And then it's always a good idea to date your whatever it is you're making, and also make sure you know what you're doing. So pain extract, pain tincture, whatever you want to call it, and then put a date. You put your date. Today is actually 5/8/2022. And that way I'll know when I started it, because I like to give any of my tinctures, extracts, even if it's an oil infusion, 2 months minimum to extract. Yes, a lot of them can go less than that, especially if you're using a stronger solvent like vodka or even Everclear, which I personally won't use. That's just my preference. Usually you can maybe go 6 weeks with something like that. Since I'm usually using something like wine in my extracts, I like to let it sit for longer. And also, if you're making it out of a stronger alcohol like vodka or Everclear, depending on the strength, you're going to take less of it. So in this case, because of what this is made of, usually I take about half a shot, which is about 2 tablespoons. If I was making this out of vodka, I would probably take 1 tablespoon. If I was making it out of Everclear, 1 teaspoon would probably be all I would need. So just remember, even if you're going with a higher ratio of alcohol in there, that just means you need to take less of it. But again, for those who are trying to minimize the amount of alcohol or better the flavor, like in the case of using the honey, or not use alcohol at all, then you may need to, if you're doing honey and water mixture or glycerin and water, you may need to take a full shot, so about 2 ounces, just like you would like with a homemade cough syrup or something, in order to get an effectiveness. But again, it's all going to depend on the person and how well they react to the different herbs that they're using. Don't forget to go check out that video I'll be putting down below about the various types of natural pain and inflammation remedies. And I also have another video on a pain remedy for your dogs. I think for the most part it would work just as well for cats, but you'd want to leave the catnip out. Catnip is a sedative for humans and dogs, but not for cats. It's a stimulant. So you just have to look at each herb for yourself to find out what's going to be safest for your pets if you're going to use it. But I do know that this remedy does work really great for the dogs. So I'll be sharing that down below, as well as the homemade capsules. And then you can just kind of go from there and just start playing around with the different herbs. Like in here, I've got turmeric and ginger, or a couple of the ingredients in one of those capsules. I use those same thing in the dog pain remedy, so that can be a great one too. I just find it doesn't work as well for me as this particular blend here. And then there's wild lettuce, the list goes on and on. There's so many of them out there. So please check that video out so you can get a good idea. And then don't forget to read comments down below, because there's always people willing to share what they use, what kind of natural remedies they use that works best for them in their various situations. And that all that information put together can really be helpful in getting you to find what's going to work best for you personally and for your family. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.